Hey guys, this is Anthony Morganti from anthonymorganti.com, and this is episode 52 of Photo Critiques. And in Photo Critiques, people send me in some of their best work, and I critique each shot with suggestions on how they can improve it. And today, I'm pleased to critique the work, again, of Elenilson Segura. And you may think that name is familiar, and it's because I did critique some of his work in the past. And I've mentioned I don't mind critiquing your work several times. Just remember, I put everything to the back of the pack, and I get to them in the order that I received them. I'm running 4 weeks, maybe even a little over 4 weeks now. My plan is this weekend I'm going to try to do a lot of these and just flood my website and YouTube with a bunch of them to try to get caught up. Try to get it down to 2 weeks again. But anyways, let's get started with Elenilson. This first shot, very nice scene. This old farm. Very nice rendering. The sky is gorgeous. I like the colors, very nice contrast in colors here, and warmth and coolness. Very well done. What I do want to point out, and if I ever could get everyone that watches these critiques and people who are beginning photography to learn how to do, and that's to see the light. And what I mean by that is when you look at a scene, is examine how the light is, where the shadows are falling, and now your eyes are going to see a lot differently than what your camera is going to see, so your brain is going to have to know what your camera is actually going to render when you take the shot. Now, what I'm getting at in this specific shot, it's a beautiful shot, don't get me wrong, but we do have these dark areas here, and that's fine. I mean, this is nice, very nice shot. But as I look at this shot, I would think, wow, this would be a tremendous HDR shot, because we have some very bright areas and we have some very dark areas, and we have a lot of nice color. So it would have been a really, really nice shot to do HDR with. Or, I mean, there's other things you could do. You know, if he wanted to, he could come in. If he doesn't have software to do HDR or whatever, you could come in, you could open up the shadows a little. But what's going to happen is when you open up the shadows, you're going to flatten the image a little bit as far as contrast. So now we could see in here a little better. But you flatten the image as far as contrast. Now the color doesn't look as saturated either. Now some people might like this version a little better, I don't know, but I like the way Elenilson, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing your name, did it. I like everything about it. But what you guys try to do when you come up to a scene, look at the light, look how the light is falling on it, decide for yourself here's my thought process. I decide how the light's falling, and you know, then I try to get my angle where I try to minimize the shadows or maximize the shadows if they're attractive shadows. I know that sounds kind of weird, but if you know, some scenes, you know, you have a picture and it might have some really incredible shadowing in it. Well, you want to maximize that. You want to show that off. Then in other scenes, and I'm going to show you some of Elenilson's later, where you want to minimize the shadow. You don't want the shadow as strong. So you're going to position yourself, or you're going to come back at a different time of day or whatever to get the shadow like you want. That's one thing Ansel Adams did, world, you know, one of the most famous photographers in the history of the world. He would go back to a scene 1,000 times, literally 1,000 times, until he had the light just right, the shadows just right. So what I do is I go to a scene, I see how the light is, I see first how I could best maximize the light for my shot. So if there was let's say in this scene, if there was real harsh light and it was coming from the side and I had these huge shadows over here, well, then I wouldn't even take the shot probably. I would come around this side and I'd see if I could get something closer over here. You know, I'd walk around, I'd look at the scene, I'd try to see where I could get the light to be the most attractive for the scene, try to maximize it, minimize what I want to minimize, and go from there. So you really, when you come up on a scene, really be aware of the light first. This is now, you know, a very nice, it's obviously the same thing. He just moved closer. But it's very well done. Very nice processing. Again, see how we got these, it's a little dark in here, but that's okay. I mean, it's being lit over this way, so we have this part of this, I don't want to call it a barn, but it's in shadows a little bit. But it's nice. I really do like the color, and it's very well focused. Very nice. Now this is one of the ones I was talking about the light. This is an excellent shot. The color is really nice. The sky, again, we have some of these rays, which are always kind of nice if you could get those rendered in the sky. Excuse me. Again, though, we have this huge shadows because it's partially backlit. This is a scene where, so look here, these windows are very dark, the door is very dark, these windows are all dark. I mean, you could try to pull up shadows, to get those better, but it doesn't really help it that much. I mean, we could see the door now, we could see it's a little more detail in the decrepit window areas. It just doesn't, it's not cutting it, turning up shadows. This is one where you would probably prefer to shoot from the other side in this instance, or come back when the sun was in a different position. Preferably over your left shoulder might have been better, or over, a little further over on your right side might have been better. Just be aware of the light and where the light is hitting it, and what the shadows are going to do. When he was there, these shadows probably didn't look as dark, but his camera rendered them a lot darker than what they were. This one too, pretty cool structure, very nicely done. I like the black and white that he chose to do, but we have this shadow right here. So you really gotta be aware of light. As a photographer, that's really one of the most that's the most important thing I'd say that we consider when we're going to shoot a scene. Light first, then we start deciding about, position ourselves so the background is good, or so, the other things in the scene, all are secondary to light, because this scene would look a lot different if it was an overcast rainy day, and it would be a lot different if it was a day with no clouds in the sky. So you have to really be aware of light. We do have some blown out areas over here, maybe. I think they're borderline. Open up the histogram here. I hover over here. Yeah, you can see a tiny bit of red up in here. And always try to avoid these blown out areas if possible. This here, I think, is his second last shot. Very, very nice perspective. Very nice. Now, it's a little dark. That might be the way he wanted it, because he wanted the sky to be really dark. And I mentioned before, is always be aware if you're going to print something like this, stuff down in here is just going to be ink. I mean, you're just not going to have any detail at all. So, you could come over and we could pull shadows up again. Now, of course, when I pull up shadows, it didn't desaturate it too much, though, but now we have a little more detail in here. The way I would have developed, now I don't like really saying how I'm going to develop something, because we all have our own different taste and our different biases, but we seem to have a really cool contrast here between the tips of these bushes and the body part of the bushes. So I would try to process this image so that this tips of the bushes were a little more like gotcha, they stand out, and especially when right next to the rest of the bush, which is considerably darker. So there's something to consider. You get these different variations of color and how you could exploit one against another. This is a great shot. This is probably my favorite shot that he sent. What I like about it, I'll tell you, is I don't know if the sky is pretty cool, but right away this fence just grabs me. It's so bright white, and it's just kind of sprawling, and I really like it. I really think it adds a lot to the shot. It is, though, a little dark, but if you brightened up the shadows again, the fence probably wouldn't be as effective. Let me see. You guys got to understand, I don't try anything beforehand. I just wing these things. Yeah, see, I brighten it up. Now the fence doesn't seem to be as striking. So this is another scene that you might want to consider HDR. Very powerful process is HDR. Those of you that don't know what it is, it's called high dynamic range photography, and it's when you take multiple images and you usually have at least one image underexposed and at least one image overexposed, and then you have one correctly exposed. Often we do more than 3 shots though. We'll have one shot that's 2 or 3 shots underexposed, then one that's further up until we get the proper exposure, then we go the other way till it's overexposed. And then we use software. Photoshop does it. There's Nik effects, there's Phomatics, there are all kinds of software where it combines them and you get this really incredible HDR image. And if you want to see probably the best HDR photography on the planet, go to stuckincustoms.com. Trey Ratcliffe is one of the best, and you see some of his stuff. And I think this scene would have been another one that would have been a tremendous HDR image. So that's it for Elenilson this time. Thank you very much, Elenilson. I really enjoy looking at your photography, and thank you everyone who watches my videos and comments on them and subscribes to my videos on YouTube and goes over to my website and reads the articles and watches the videos. I really do appreciate it. If you guys haven't subscribe to my YouTube channel, I'd really appreciate it if you did, though. Just go over to YouTube, search for Anthony Morganti, and find my channel and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. And that's it for now. And as I mentioned, in a couple days, I'm going to try to do a bunch of critiques. So those of you that have been waiting patiently for like a month now, I should get yours done by the sometime over the weekend. So again, thanks a lot, guys. I'll talk to you guys soon.